when you say genocide, you're not guessing. It's not like some propaganda term. It's the definition. And we know that not just from the video of its victims, but from the testimony of the people perpetrating it. Well, I'm confused then. If you hosted Hamas here and sent money to Gaza, both of those things at the request of the U.S. government and the Israeli government, successive Israeli governments, why did Israel bomb your country?
I don't know if any of the actions that's been or many of the actions that's been taken been justified or rationalized or even were ethical actions. To have the mediator being bombed by one of the parties of the conflict, this has been unprecedented.
Over the weekend, Tucker Carlson visited the Doha conference in Qatar, and he even took time to interview the prime minister. His name is Mohammed Abdul Rahman Al Thani. And now all of Tucker Carlson's Israel First nemesis are absolutely furious with him. That's the fun part of the story. But before we get to it, Cenk, your 2 cents.
Whether we like it or not, Qatar is our top ally in the Middle East. We have a base there. They house our troops. They help negotiate peace treaties. We have gas deals with them. They're actually useful allies. Israel is a totally useless ally that sucks off of us and takes our money and gets us into wars and conflicts. And so now you're going to see the Israeli bootlickers in America tell us about how we should serve Israel and not actually deal with our real ally, which is Qatar.
So Tucker opened the conversation with the prime minister by discussing the various accusations that Qatar has been dealing with, including the allegation that it finances terrorists, including Hamas. Here's how Al Thani responded.
The main criticism seems to revolve around Hamas, and the idea is that your country and you specifically are supporters of Hamas, your terror financiers. My understanding is Hamas is here in Doha because the United States and Israel asked you to host Hamas.
Starting off the relationship with Hamas and the communication was started back more than 10 years, 13 years ago, at the request of the United States. All our aid and all our support and financing that went and what they claimed that it went to Hamas, went to Gaza, went to the people, and it was under very transparent process that the United States is fully aware about. Israel is the one who's facilitating, and it's not one government, it was across governments. Netanyahu, Bennett, we have dealt with all the agencies. Lapid was a prime minister at a certain point of time, Mossad, Shin Bet, the Ministry of Foreign Affairs, all of and the defense, all of them, they were involved in these aids and the delivery of those aids.
I don't really know how any country could trust the United States or especially Israel. I mean, we all know that Netanyahu facilitated the funding of Hamas through Qatar. We all know that. It's now on the public record. And for those who want more information on that, great documentary to watch. It's available on Amazon, I believe, The Bibi Files. So why would you trust the United States when they say, please have Hamas here because we need a way to negotiate? You should never trust the United States government as long as it is aligned with Israel.
Yeah, but Anna, to be fair to us and to even be fair to Trump, he was kind of irate when Israel bombed Qatar, and for a number of reasons, including Qatar giving him a jet, et cetera, but also because Qatar has a huge military base that houses our troops there that we absolutely need and is very strategic for us. So we did stick up for Qatar a little bit, and that's the Israel First crowd was livid over that, right?
In fact. Sorry to interrupt you, but since you're talking about that Trump being livid thing, remember you had the Israelis claim, no, we got Trump's blessing to do strikes in Qatar, or Qatar. That came up during this discussion. So I just want to play that video real quick before you finish your point. Take a look.
President Trump basically told the Israelis to apologize to you. He took your side. He took the side of an Arab country against Israel in this specific case. I don't think I've ever seen that before. I don't think it's ever happened before. What was your reaction to that?
Well, of course, President Trump was very clear from the beginning since the attack. Actually, when he was informed about the attack, he assigned one of his advisors to reach out to us. He expressed his frustration, his disappointment from such a thing that's happening by Israel, because he knows everything about the process and he knows how helpful we were throughout this process.
You're saying that the president didn't know that was going to happen. He was surprised.
It was very clear demonstration with all the actions that this is something happened against his will, and he doesn't accept it.
Now, Trump's actions in essentially favoring Israel, regardless of what they do, has led me to believe that he's not someone to be trusted on this issue at all. So, and look, we hear about US presidents wagging their fingers at Israel or writing strongly worded letters. I don't buy any of it. But in this case, I'm going to go ahead and believe the prime minister of Qatar. It does appear that Trump was really upset that Israel did what it did in carrying out these strikes. And remember, he also forced Benjamin Netanyahu to apologize to Qatar in a phone conversation. So I will believe that. But I think it probably has to do with the fact that Qatar has served as an intermediary, a real important ally in establishing, ceasefires, peace deals, things like that.
So look, the context shows you who you can trust and can't trust. So for example, with Qatar, I've never seen them go back on anything that they promised. As far as that I've ever seen in covering news for 30 years now. The Saudis, on the other hand, pretend to be our allies, and 15 out of the 19 9/11 hijackers were Saudi. And during the insurgency in Iraq, the Saudis funded a lot of the insurgency against us. So proof's in the pudding. Now, when you get to Israel, oh my God, you'd be nuts to trust them. They're the least trustworthy country on the planet. They give you a pager, it's gonna blow up. They give you anything that's involved with cybersecurity, and it's totally jerry-rigged to give them all your information. They spy on even their top allies like us endlessly. They betray every word they give. They ask Qatar to host Hamas. They asked them. And then they bomb Qatar for hosting Hamas. I mean, it doesn't get any more untrustworthy than that. And that's Israel in a nutshell. I think every so-called ally of Israel is doing it under duress. I think that there are forces inside their governments and their media that is forcing them to support Israel, because no rational human being would consider Israel an ally when they betray their allies 24/7.
So let's talk a little bit about how people reacted to Tucker Carlson, A, being in Qatar in the first place, and B, having this conversation with the prime minister. So as we mentioned, Carlson's three biggest haters, that includes Laura Loomer, Mark Levin, and Senator Ted Cruz, all spent the weekend just absolutely raging out about this. Loomer wrote that Qatar wants the United States to pay for rebuilding Gaza. Tucker Carlson interviewed the prime minister in Doha today, and he said Qatar isn't going to pay for Gaza to be rebuilt. You see, Qatar had no problem financing the destruction of Gaza by continuing to fund Hamas. This woman is so stupid. Like, she's so ignorant, dumb, and also physically unappealing. Like, this woman is like, there's nothing going for her. Okay. Your daddy, Bibi, okay, facilitated the funding of Hamas through Qatar, you freaking idiot, number one. Number two, why would any country be responsible for paying for the reconstruction of Gaza, which the Israelis are hell-bent on snatching for themselves? You want foreign countries to bankroll the construction of Israeli settlements? Because that's essentially what would happen, number one. Number two, let's say in a perfect scenario in which Palestinians are allowed to return to, where their homes used to be in Gaza and still are able to access land that belongs to them. Shouldn't Israel and the United States, since we armed them, gave them the bombs to destroy that entire enclave, shouldn't we be the ones that fund the reconstruction of Gaza for the Palestinians specifically? Which, by the way, it sucks to even have to do that, right? But we're the ones who caused the destruction.
So Anna, there's two different parts of Gaza. And so the part where the Palestinians still live, Israel destroyed it. And so if anyone pays, it should be Israel. But of course they'll never pay because they're brutal occupying terrorists. Terrorists don't pay for their own crimes. But there's 53% of Gaza that Israel now occupies. And they say comical things like, yeah, you should pay us to rebuild it for Israel, and then Israel should keep it. Oh, wink, we'll give it back at some point. They're never gonna give it back. And why would I pay for you to build condos on Palestinian children's graves? You freaking monsters. Nobody's gonna pay for that half.
Over the weekend, Israel announced that the yellow line is the new border between Gaza and Israel.
Yeah, that's it. And the yellow line is where 53% of Gaza is now being occupied by Israel. And so they're saying, yeah, we stole it. The Young Turks were 100% right. This was always about mass murder, ethnically cleansing the Palestinians off of half of Gaza and stealing Gaza. But when you watch traditional media, those liars will lie to you on behalf of Israel. And if you ask them, hey, did Israel take half of Gaza? They'll say yes, but they're gonna let the Palestinians back in. Well, you said what? They just voted that they're never letting the Palestinians back in. Yes, but shut up, you're an anti-Semite. So yeah, I mean, look, what Tucker Carlson did there was a perfectly normal interview with a head of state who's an ally of ours. Loomer and Ted Cruz and all those guys, they work for Israel, so they spent the weekend kissing Netanyahu's sphincter. So yeah.
Loomer also made fun of Carlson's former struggles with alcoholism. He's been sober for many, many years now. Stated that Carlson's goal was to lose Republicans the midterms, and also predicted that he would convert to Islam because he can't be part of a religion that worships a Jew. Now, Mark Levin stated that Carlson was pimping for Qatar. In fact, look, I will say this: the only real contribution that Mark Levin has made to American society is the hilarious nickname of Carlson, which I know he's like trying to insult him, but I think it's really funny and I like saying it. But Senator Ted Cruz, took it up a notch and said live footage of Tucker Carlson interviewing the Prime Minister of Qatar, and then he featured a photoshopped image or AI image of Tucker Carlson spreading his legs. No mention of how often Ted Cruz spreads his legs for anyone who he might think could help him politically or might help him ingratiate himself with power players in the Republican Party. But anyway, Cenk, final word.
So yeah, for example, we don't take any money from any foreign government, Qatar or otherwise, right? Ted Cruz is taking millions of dollars from the Israeli lobby. So that picture and all of these accusations by all of them are just telling on themselves. So when Mark Levin says, oh, he's just representing Qatar in America, that's because Mark Levin represents Israel in America, and he thinks everyone is a traitor like him. He's just trying to figure out, who are you a traitor for? Mark, others are not traitors. Only you think that way, and your fellow Israel First people like Laura Loomer, et cetera, who love betraying our country for the country they actually love. And then when I see that picture of the spread legs, I think Ted Cruz must have photoshopped it from his own collection. So, because that is all that Ted Cruz has ever done, is open up his sphincter in his mouth for Israeli donors, and they have pummeled him repeatedly. And he has loved it. He has loved every minute of it. He has loved betraying the voters of Texas, betraying the voters of America on behalf of a foreign country. And he often will admit it, including on Tucker Carlson's show. He says, I got into the Senate to serve Israel. I'm not saying you're a traitor. You're kind of saying you're a traitor. And these guys have the nerve, the audacity to criticize anyone for just interviewing a foreign official. Dude, you interviewed a foreign official with your mouth, okay? And so don't tell me about how you're worried about foreign influence when they're inside your mouth. Yeah, Ted Cruz, take Netanyahu out of your mouth, and then maybe I could hear you.
And you also got Anti-Semite of the Year, or you got?
Did I win?
No, I don't. You also got nominated for Anti-Semite of the Year.
I think it is immoral to judge people on qualities they can't control that they're born with. I don't think that people are guilty by virtue of their blood. That's why I disagree with the Netanyahu cabinet. They believe the Palestinians are subhuman because they're Palestinian. I know Anna too. They're not only are not anti-Semites, they think anti-Semitism is immoral.
That's right. Anti-Semitism, just like racism, just like sexism, just like homophobia, just like Islamophobia, is wrong. It is immoral. we should be able to judge individuals based on the behavior that they themselves engage in. But the idea of judging an entire population of people based on immutable, traits is insane, immoral, and I've always rejected that. And I'm happy to hear that Tucker Carlson does as well. Now, during this conversation on Theo Von's podcast, there were a lot of interesting points, and I appreciated Theo Von in particular, because look, Theo Von, I look at him as normie when it comes to the political world. He's not a politico, he's not steeped in what we talk about every day on the show or any political show for that matter. But his reaction to what's been happening in Gaza and the Middle East was very much real and came from a place of vulnerability. And I noticed that when he recently had an appearance on Joe Rogan's show, he wanted to talk about it. He really wanted to flesh out what's going on. And for whatever reason, I don't know why, Rogan didn't really want to get into that conversation at all and kept interrupting and pivoting and whatever. I was happy to see that he was able to engage in this conversation with Tucker Carlson. And I think that there were moments worthy of highlighting because of the candor, because of what they were saying. So it's especially important when it comes to heavy topics like, genocide. Let's take a look.
I think I was watching some of the Gaza stuff and I kept thinking well, surely America will come in at some point and help.
And stop this.
Right, that was my thought.
Especially since when you say genocide, you're not guessing. It's not like some propaganda term. It's the definition. And we know that not just from the video of its victims, but from the testimony of the people perpetrating it. Smotrich, Ben Gvir. Look, we need to get them out.
Let me see.
These are people who were born there.
I just want to see if that's.
It's insane.
It is insane. And I'm so tired of being made out to be the crazy one or the hateful one and the bigoted one or the anti-Semitic. I'm not anti-Semitic at all. No, I mean, most of the people who are targeted as so-called anti-Semites right now are specifically being critical of a foreign country. And so when you claim that it's anti-Semitic to be critical of the IDF's actions in Gaza, of the Israeli settlers' actions in the West Bank, what you're essentially communicating to the world is that engaging in barbarism, engaging in mass slaughter is part of the Jewish identity, which it's not. Okay, the claim itself is disgusting and anti-Semitic. And again, I mean, you're hearing influential, powerful people within the Israeli government just flat out talking about mass extermination. And we're just supposed to ignore that and pretend like it doesn't exist? So the two then went on to play a video of Bezalel Smotrich's gross genocidal speeches, at least one of them. It's a more recent one, and they reacted to it. So let's take a look at that.
The truth is, until the last hostage returns, we shouldn't even give water to the Gaza Strip. For a year and a half, we've been beating the hell out of Hamas. We're breaking Gaza apart, leaving it as a pile of rubble, with total unprecedented destruction in the world, and the world still hasn't stopped us. The aim is to achieve the one and only required outcome: the conquest of Gaza, the annihilation of Hamas, and the return of all the hostages. In one word, victory. So that's their view on it right there,
He's saying we're killing people and leveling the country in order to move the population out. So how is that different from saying there's certain people in my capital city I don't want here, I'm gonna put them on trains and move them east? There's no difference. People are being killed and expelled from the place where they were born because of their bloodline.
Yeah.
That, in the world that I grew up in, which is the United States of America, the main lesson, the lesson of World War II, the reason we fought against fascism was we reject that.
I thought that was a powerful moment because of how much, honestly, I resonated with it, because I think what's happened over the last 2 years, just putting aside the carnage in the Middle East and just focusing on the United States, what we project about ourselves on the globe or in the globe, I always thought of our country as obviously like our government's been flawed. We've always had issues. There's no question. We've never been a perfect country. But I always thought that what we were aspiring to as a country, what our Constitution provided us in terms of recognizing humanity, human rights, all of that. I thought, you know what? That's what makes us stand out. When I thought about our role in World War II, like that gives me so much pride. I see myself as American first and foremost. I'm very, very proud of my Armenian heritage. There's no question about that. But I was born and raised here. And I do have a stake in the game as an American who cares about this country, who wants this country to thrive, who wants the people of this country to thrive, regardless of their political identity. Even if you despise me, even if you're like on the far right or even on the left and you think I'm a terrible person, I want you to thrive. People in this country should live good lives and they should have things in their lives that they can look forward to. And I think a lot of people are struggling right now. And what really bothers me is that as there is so much suffering in our own country, our government time and time again has shown us that we are on the back burner as they prioritize foreign policy that does not benefit the American people. And on top of that, I feel embarrassed by what our government is greenlighting, funding, arming, and engaging in. That's not the identity of the United States that I was raised to believe we have. Again, I am not at all belittling or minimizing dark things that have happened in this nation's history. We have never been perfect. But I just thought that we would be better than this. And I'm embarrassed. I'm embarrassed by our leaders bowing their heads to a foreign country and to foreign leaders. I'm embarrassed by how easily they're bought and corrupted. And I'm embarrassed that so many people just don't see Muslims as human. Like the dehumanization propaganda toward Muslims in this country, I didn't realize just how effective it was. And so I deluded myself into thinking, well, if I just do more debates and I just try to inform people more, maybe I change my style, maybe I change my tone, maybe I find a different way to reach people. It's just they need to know the information. I got to get them the information. No, for some people, they know what's happening. And that is so hard for me to accept because I think ultimately most people are capable of goodness. But the propaganda in this country runs deep. And when an entire group of people have been dehumanized and they just talk about Palestinians as if they're animals out in the open, not just in the Israeli government, but I see it in the commentary in American media time to time. It disappoints me. It makes me really sad. And I find it really embarrassing. Finally, something that I think is worth pointing out. I'm really happy that Tucker Carlson specifically called out the double standard when it comes to hatred. Let's take a look.
All of a sudden, you've got people in the United States, current United States government, you've got people in our media class, they're all defending this because they agree with it. And then you see people jumping up and being like, Muslims shouldn't have jobs in the United States. And it's like, or in the US government, it's like, how is that better than saying Jews shouldn't have jobs or Christians or Buddhists? It's all the same. That kind of thinking is genocidal. It leads to the genocide we're watching right now in Gaza and to many other genocides. For the fifth time, it's not just Israel, it does this, okay? But this is what we're fighting against.
I could not agree more. Please don't fall prey to any ideology that makes you think an entire group of people based on their religion or their ethnicity, their nationality, whatever it is. Don't ever let anyone convince you to hate an entire group of people. Judge individuals based on their own actions. And there is that double standard. So if you are offended by genuine anti-Semitism, as I am, you should be just as offended at people who engage in Islamophobic rhetoric, in racist actions, because human beings should, again, be treated as individuals. But more importantly, you should do it for yourself in terms of rejecting that kind of ideology. Because I think one of the things that Martin Luther King Jr. said that resonated the most with me, and I hope it resonated with you all as well, is that hatred, you should feel bad for people who are taken over by hatred. Like, those are not happy people. Those are pretty miserable people. So just keep that in mind. I mean, I'm kind of preaching to the choir because I know most people in my audience are not into hating, any group of people based on their identity. But I really appreciated that portion of the conversation on Theo Von's podcast. And I gotta give a shout out to Theo Von because I can tell he's been like really wanting to talk about this issue. And Tucker Carlson gave him an opportunity to do that in a way that was open, honest, and candid.
Every time you ring the bell below, an angel gets his wings. Totally not true, but it does keep you updated on our live shows.